This is a video on how to use LifeBrush. There are two main spaces in LifeBrush. The Exemplar Palette, where you can select example molecular arrangements to paint into the simulation space. Hold the right controller in your dominant hand. The trigger button controls the size of the brush. You can press the trackpad, either the top or the bottom, to toggle between different modes of the currently selected tool. The grip button lets you drag yourself through space with either your left or right hand. You select molecules by moving the brush over the molecules that you want to select. If you press the bottom of the trackpad, you can switch the tool to remove mode and remove individual molecules, or increase the brush size to remove a whole bunch at once. Move the generative brush into the simulation box and press up on the trackpad. Hold the trigger button to paint on a nearby surface. Press the top of the trackpad to paint in space. Press the bottom trackpad and squeeze the trigger to remove those molecules. Molecules can't be painted anywhere. They can only be painted within the simulation box, this red box here. Having a small simulation box lets us limit the number of agents that we have to simulate, so that we can do this interactively in real time in VR. Pressing the top button on the controller, the shoulder button summons the VR menu. Holding the controller near the VR menu shows a tilted cylinder. Squeezing the trigger selects whatever was selected under that control cylinder. In this case, play simulation. The Visualize Paths tool shows the history of molecules as they move through the simulation. So here we're showing the last 30 seconds of the selected molecules. The Visualize Interactions tool shows the history of events that led to an interaction, such as ATP synthase being produced. So when you hover over one of those colored blocks and select it, then you can see the history, for example, of a proton being pumped or of a ATP being synthesized by an ATP synthase, converting ADP into ATP. Here we're showing how we don't occlude the path lines. So if there's any molecules in the way of the path lines, we make them temporarily disappear as you move your head around. You can use the grab tool to grab molecules and move them around, or even rotate them. There are two modes, a simulation mode and a painting mode. If you click the top, switch to painting, then you can use the generative brushes to modify a simulation that you've just been running. Then if you switch back to the simulation and play, you can see the results of your changes. The final tool is the mesh tool, and right now it's a little broken, but here you can see how it's used. You select the tool, and then you can paint geometry directly into space around the brush. And you can very finely control the size of the brush by squeezing the trigger only a little bit. So here's a very crude ATP synthase. If you press the right side of the controller, you can switch to remove mode, where you can remove stuff from the mesh. In my private repository, this tool could be used to create agent geometry and simulation geometry, but I made a whole bunch of code changes recently that broke all of this. So there's a bit of work to restore that functionality, but it will come in a future release. There's no hard limit on the size of the meshes that you can create with the mesh tool, other than how fast your GPU is or how much memory your computer has. Thank you for watching.